So if you've watched my channel for the past 2 years, there's one iPad accessory that you've seen in pretty much every single video that I've posted, just because it became such an important part in my creation process, and that is this accessory, the Sketchboard Pro. I've used this thing every single day since March of 2021, so you can imagine how excited I was when the folks behind Sketchboard Pro reached out to me and wanted me to try their newest version, Sketchboard Pro 2, which I've got to say, this thing has not even been released yet. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the Sketchboard Pro 2, see what updates they made, and compare it with the original Sketchboard Pro. That being said though, this is not a sponsored video. They did not pay me for this review. I'm honestly just a huge fan of the original and jumped at the chance to take a look at the second one. So let's go ahead, take a look at the changes that they made with the new one. Right off the bat, you can tell the Sketchboard Pro 2 is smaller than the first, and it's also lighter. The original Sketchboard Pro measured 19 inches wide by 17 inches tall. Sketchboard Pro 2 measures about 17¼ inches wide by about 15¾ inches tall. Setting the new one on top of the original really gives you an idea of the size difference. As far as weight goes, the first one weighed in just over 4 pounds and 3 ounces without an iPad inserted, and version 2 weighs in just over 3 pounds and 6 ounces, so just a little shy of a 1 pound difference. With version 1, even though the cradle was magnetic, it really relied more on the silicone casing around the opening to hold the iPad there, which kind of required you to squeeze the iPad into the frame. It wasn't necessarily hard to insert or to remove, but it did just require a little bit of effort. And then of course, there was a hole to hold your Apple Pencil on the right. The new version relies more on the magnets instead, which makes putting your iPad in and then pulling your iPad back out pretty effortless. The magnets do keep a pretty good grip, but I wouldn't necessarily advise walking around with your iPad in there just to be on the safe side. And lefties, they get some love this time around too, because there's a pencil holder not only on the right side, but also on the left side. Both versions have that cutout above the iPad, so you've got that spot to wirelessly charge your stylus if your iPad is one that uses the Apple Pencil too. Of course, with the first Sketchboard Pro, you could use it flat, but it also had 2 sets of legs that snapped out that let you draw either at a 20-degree incline, or you could draw in the vertical position. I know some people saw this as something that could be improved on, since there was really only that one angle for incline drawing and then the position for easel style drawing, both of which worked if your iPad was in landscape or portrait orientation. Sketchboard Pro 2 still works flat, but gone are the hinged legs. Instead, you get these 2 magnetic legs with little rubber feet that snap into the underside. There's 3 sets of holes in the landscape orientation you can choose from. Top set gives you a 20-degree incline, just like the original version. Now initially, I was a little apprehensive with how much thinner and smaller these legs were compared to the original model. I didn't necessarily think the sketchboard was going to feel as sturdy, but with the exception of the upright orientation, this thing is just as solid as version 1. This middle set I just switched to gives you a new incline for a little bit more raised positioning, and as you can see, it's still super sturdy and solid. And the bottom set gives you the upright easel feel. Now, this is where I don't think the new version is necessarily as sturdy as the first, but in all honesty, I've never used the easel setting for drawing. I've only used it for watching stuff on my iPad, so this personally doesn't bother me. Now, when you have your iPad in the portrait orientation, you really only have 2 choices of leg positions because of the handle. You can use that 20-degree incline with the top set of holes, or you can use the bottom set for the easel mode. Now, the real reason I've always loved the Sketchboard Pro is because I'm very gestural when I draw. I've even made a whole video explaining how to draw from your shoulder and the benefits of resting your hand on your drawing surface and gliding it across as you draw. Here's the idea. The more space you have to draw, the easier that is. That's why I love drawing on my 24-inch Cintiq Pro. This is why I recommend the Sketchboard Pro so highly. And that's its real benefit. The Sketchboard meets the iPad screen flat, and it extends that resting area, which in turn makes the usable size of your screen bigger. The point of the Sketchboard Pro isn't just to prop up your iPad like those $10 or $15 little easel mount stands that you see on Amazon. It's to extend that surface, which makes your iPad feel larger than it is. That's not something you'll get with those stands or even the ones with the arms and the magnetic plates on the back. When I use the Sketchboard, it feels more like I'm drawing on my Cintiq than I am on my iPad. Of course, since the Sketchboard Pro 2 is smaller, that extended area is also a bit smaller than the first version. From the edge of the iPad to the edge of the Sketchboard measures just under 3 inches on the new one. And on the first one, that same area was just under 4 inches, so you do lose a little bit less than an inch, but I think it's still adequate enough to get the job done. and I feel most people are gonna find it to be a welcome trade-off for the smaller size and less weight. Now, the one thing I highlighted in my initial review video of the first Sketchboard Pro was my dislike of the hole for the charging cable. I tend to use third-party cables since they're longer and cheaper, but a lot of the times they also have larger ends on them, which did not play nice with version 1. Plugging in a charging cable meant having to remove the silicone from that side of the frame, feed the cable through, squeeze the silicone back into the frame, and then plug the iPad in while making some more adjustments. And then of course you had to repeat that entire process when you wanted to take the cable back out. I'm happy to say that using any charging cables with the Sketchboard Pro 2 is an absolute breeze. The opening for the hole on the front as well as the opening on the back, they're nice and big, and they allow you to easily thread that cable through and plug in your iPad in just a matter of seconds. And removing the cable is just as easy, so this is definitely an upgrade. Price-wise, Sketchboard Pro 2 costs $129, the exact same price as the original. So there's over 36 iPad models supported, but here's a change to take note of. The first and second gen 12.9-inch iPad Pros are not supported. But if you do plan on upgrading iPads later or changing sizes, there will be upgrade kits available, just like with the first version, that allows you to switch out the cradle without having to buy a whole new Sketchboard Pro. You also get your choice of white or black, and they also announced VESA support with an additional adapter that's coming soon, which will allow you to use desk arm mounts like this. So now we come to the question, should you buy a Sketchboard Pro 2? Well, I'm gonna ask you a question first. Do you already have a Sketchboard Pro? If not, my answer is 100% yes. I don't draw on my iPad without it, and like I said, I've used it every day for almost 3 years. Now, if you answered yes because you already have the first version, understand it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but it is definitely a welcome refining of that wheel. I would still highly recommend considering an upgrade, especially if you travel with it because of the smaller size and being lighter. And that change to the charge port 2 is a massive upgrade along with the additional incline choice. Having two also means you could leave one at home and one at work. Personally, I've kind of enjoyed having both because I can leave one in the studio and the other behind the couch, ready for when I sit down and watch TV and draw, but I'm gonna leave that one up to you. All right guys, that's it for my look at the Sketchboard Pro 2. Like I said earlier, it's not out yet. Start shipping late December, early January, but I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description if you want to pre-order it now, which I also worked out a deal with the good folks at Sketchboard Pro, and my coupon code BJDEL, which saves you 10% off your order. They're actually allowing you to use it on the pre-orders of this. So use that code BJDEL at checkout, save 10%. And get yourself a Sketchboard Pro 2. That's it for today's video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, keep creating.